This episode is sponsored by Pet Matrix Premium Canine Supplements. Straight Up Dog Talk is super excited to be partnered with Pet Matrix. After exhausting several other pet supplemental brands, I am now seeing the results that I have always been searching for Toby and Fitz. Pet Matrix supports all three pillars of canine wellness using their cell matrix delivery. It delivers nutrition directly into the cell. If you're looking for a supplement that pairs with nature and science, look no further and get your dog on Pet Matrix today. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we're back again this week with Josh.
Hello.
And this week we have our guest Kenzi and Dobby. How are you doing tonight, Kenzi?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we have kind of just a fun episode tonight. This is kind of the journey of how a girl got a dog story. And Kenzi also has a very unique breed. You see him in the back.
Oh, yeah, I do see it in the back. Right over the shoulder.
Dobby is a Vizsla. Have you ever seen a Vizsla before, Josh?
I don't think so.
They're definitely a very unique breed, and Kenzi's going to tell us all about them.
I can see why his name is Dobby.
Looks like a Harry Potter character.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Kenzi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and something fun about Dobby?
Okay. Yeah. I've been married 4 years, and Dobby is our only child and very spoiled, and we love him so much. He is our baby boy, and every time anyone asks us if we have any kids, we always say yes, we have a son named Dobby, and it's always a fun joke. But he's the light of our lives, honestly, and keeps us on our toes, but in a good way.
He is a real cutie, too. Like I said, he's a Vizsla. If you guys have never seen a Vizsla, obviously we'll have the social media accounts attached here so you guys can check out Dobby. This is definitely a breed that not a lot of people have or have seen before, and oftentimes gets confused with Rhodesian Ridgebacks because of the coloring. They look very similar, but Rhodesian Ridgebacks tend to have a more blocky head and snout than the Vizslas. Vizslas look a little bit more like Weimaraners in their head shape, but they're much more sleek, I would say. Weimaraners tend to be a little more boxy in the body, where Vizslas are a little bit slimmer. So let's talk about Dobby and how you got Dobby and why you got Dobby, because as I said, this is kind of a story of a girl getting a dog.
Yes. Well, it all started right after COVID when they set us all working from home. My husband still worked in the office while I was home, so I was home all by myself. And after a few months, I honestly got very lonely, needing some company, and hated being by myself all day long, even though I was busy working. So I asked my husband if we could get a cat. I always grew up with a cat, and we've just been a cat family. And he said no. They live way too long. They're too long of a commitment. Not a cat guy. I get it. A lot of guys aren't cat guys. So he said no, and I was actually desperate. I was like, okay, let's get a dog then, please. Like, I really just want some company. Honestly, just something to make me feel safe in the house, just while I'm like by myself all alone. And so I had done research previously on what kind of dog I would like to get based on needs that we have in our lives, based on activity level that me and my husband have, and based on not wanting a ton of hair everywhere, and based on wanting to have kids in the future. So a dog that is going to be good for all those situations. And I was like, okay, let's get a Vizsla.
And Vizslas are very energetic dogs. They are
very high activity level dogs, and they are very kind of nosy dogs. They like to be very involved in everything that's going on. And that's kind of what you'll get on Dobby's Instagram page is usually him up to something or into something or chasing a ball. He's a very fun guy. But initially, the reason you said, you were used to growing up with cats, you told me that in our pre-interview conversation that there was actually a reason you preferred cats. Would you share that with the listeners?
Yes, of course. So I've had multiple bad experiences with dogs that have made me not a dog person, which no one would ever believe looking at my Instagram page, or whether it's Dobby's or my personal page, because I'm so obsessed with my dog. But it all started when I was about 4 years old, and me and my mom were at Home Depot. And, dogs are allowed in Home Depot. And there was an Akita. And being a 4-year-old, like, I loved dogs and, you always want to pet it or whatever. So I go up to the owner and I say, hey, can I pet your dog? And he says, yes. And I pet it and it bit my hand. And it was a very traumatizing experience for me, honestly. And I developed this fear of dogs and just have never been a fan, honestly, since that point. Even later on, I had multiple experiences while I was serving an LDS mission. I served in Central America, where they do have lots of stray animals and lots of stray dogs that are very aggressive and mean. And I was unfortunately attacked twice by 2 different dogs in the 2 countries that I served in, one being Belize and one being El Salvador, where they, again, have multiple dogs just roaming the street. And it honestly made me furious with dogs in general, even though they were in a poor situation and they don't know any better. They're not raised with families or anything. They have to fend for themselves on the streets, but it has developed this fear in me, and just that dogs can have this aggression. And I honestly never wanted to see a dog again after that point. But then after my mission, I met my husband and found out he is a dog person, always grew up with dogs. I was like, man, I am eventually going to probably have to get a dog. So that's when I started doing research very early on, that whenever the day came that he would ask me if we could get a dog, that I would be like, okay, if you want a dog, this is what we're getting. I never thought it'd come the day that I asked for a dog, but I always thought it'd be him. But I did just really want some companionship. And while I was doing research very early on, a few years before COVID, I did come across Vizslas because I specifically searched in Google best family dog that doesn't shed as much. And because I knew the best family dog would probably be Lab, Golden Retriever, those common family dogs, a Golden Doodle, which obviously doesn't shed either. But
Australian Shepherd.
Yeah, Australian Shepherds, exactly. Border Collies, all these animals that are great dogs. I just did not want to deal with the hair, and not being a dog person already, that was number one on my list, was at least the amount of shedding as possible. And obviously Dobby does shed a little bit, but it is minimal, luckily.
Now, going back to you getting bit by the feral dogs, I just want to comment a little bit about feral dogs, because I don't think that people understand when we're talking about feral dogs, we're talking about dogs that are literally wild. They have little to no human interaction. They feed themselves by hunting for game. They live, out in these areas in, the woods or the brush or the desert, and they don't know what a social norm is. They have no idea, and they've been out there fending for themselves for a long time. With that being said, it was probably not your fault that you got attacked by these dogs. I mean, you're in an area where they're used to having to protect themselves, and them being scared was just an unfortunate situation for both of you. With that being said, did you end up having to have a rabies vaccination or sutures or anything? Because those are, third world country areas, and that is definitely something to be scared about.
Yes, luckily we do have amazing leaders that were able to get me to the hospital, even though Central America is not the most wanted place to go to the hospital at. But I was able to get some great help there. The first bite, I did go to the hospital in Belize, and I did get stitches and the rabies vaccine, and was in bed a lot because walking made it reopen or irritated it constantly. So it was very frustrating because, as a lot of people know, missionaries do walk everywhere, at least in Central America. There's no cars or bikes or any other really form of transportation. And the second bite was only 2 months later. And so luckily the original vaccine was still good. So I didn't have to get the vaccine again, and unfortunately did not make it to the hospital within the original first 24 hours, I believe is the rule, where they can't do stitches after that due to trapping in the infection or trapping in, I guess, saliva from the dog. So unfortunately, I was not able to get as much help as I could have gotten if I had gone to the hospital earlier. But I was in need of stitches and unfortunately just did not get those. So that did remain infected for a couple months until I was finally able to get home, get on some antibiotics, and clean it more thoroughly. And I have some pretty great scars from it.
Can I ask you where the bites were?
Yes, they were both on the same leg, which is kind of funny. The first one was exactly behind my kneecap, and then the second one was mid-calf.
Yeah, that I can see where that would definitely prohibit you from walking around, especially if it wasn't sutured shut. That's scary, and you should be really proud of yourself for toughing that one out, because I don't know that I would be able to get through a bite wound like that without proper medical care. And to now have your own dog and have formed this amazing relationship. When you told me this story before, I was shocked. Because like you said, nobody would ever believe you. You are obsessed with your dog. You're constantly kissing him. You guys are snuggle buddies, and you just really seem to complement each other really well. How long do you think that it took you after you got Dobby to really adjust to the fact that, like, you had this dog in your life?
Honestly, it took a couple months, probably at least 5. Everyone always loves the puppy stage, or at least when they're adults, they're like, oh, I wish, I could keep the puppy stage forever. I was ready for him to grow up so that I could do stuff with him. He could be my running partner, my hiking partner, all these things. Obviously, I do miss how cute and little he was, but I was so ready for him to be an adult. And it wasn't due to just like the puppy stage of the shark bites is what everyone always calls them, the shark stage, or the naughty stage or anything like that. It really was just, okay, grow up so I can actually play with you and, do more outdoor things and active things, that we could just be best buds, honestly, and do everything together. Because I felt like as a puppy, I couldn't do as much of that with him since he was so small and obviously needed to be caught up on vaccines, and also just needed to grow into his body before he did do hardcore running or anything like that.
That is another thing about Vizslas, is they are very awkward, like, growing dogs. They definitely go through that teenage phase where they're kind of like their body and their head are not in the correct proportion, and they always look like they're going to tip over. Talking about that, was Dobby, was he a naughty puppy? Did he get into stuff? Did he destroy things? Did he have trouble potty training? How was he?
He was an angel, I think, compared to a lot of other dogs, which is so nice. People always say their firstborn is the angel baby, and that common trend of the dog that made me get a second, but then the second that makes me question all my decisions, And he really was so perfect. It was very difficult crate training him, and I think that does have to do with their personality of always wanting to be right next to you, literally touching you, on top of you, in your skin. Practically, they would if they could, I swear. So crate training was really the only difficult thing that we really went through. He never chewed anything he wasn't supposed to, other than one experience, I will say, that did cost a lot of money. Unfortunately, he did find my retainer I wear at night and was running around the house with it in his mouth, and I didn't know. I thought it was a Gatorade bottle cap because he loved those as a puppy. He loved if we drank Gatorade and then gave him the bottle cap, he would just hold it in his mouth, and obviously we'd keep a good eye on him. But he would just hold it right there in his mouth and just loved it. It was like our thing to give to him. And so I just assumed it was one of those until he started running away from me, and I knew he had something he shouldn't. I looked, and it was unfortunately my retainer all mangled, and that cost about $800 to get a new one, unfortunately. Those retainers are expensive. They're supposed to last a lifetime, which is, I think, why they're so much. But that was the one thing that he has ever done that I'd consider naughty and that I was so upset with him for. But he was so easy. Vizslas are so smart to train. He took on potty training so fast. And another lucky thing is we did get him a little bit older. He was still a puppy. We got him he was almost 12 weeks, which I know a lot of people get their dogs younger than that. But the breeder started potty training him with the fake grass, like the turf. Then she trained the puppies to go on this turf so that it would replicate real grass, so that when he did come home with us, he really did pick up on going on grass. He did, as a puppies do, have a couple accidents in the house, but we invested in a doggy door real quick because that changed our lives the second we got one of those. And he was in and out all the time and just picked it up really fast from there.
Now, since we know that you did get him from a breeder, let's talk about that for a minute. How did you find the breeder for him? Because you did say that you had been doing research for several years, and obviously doing your research on breeders, especially for Vizslas, a breed that's not as well known or as popular here in the United States. How did you go about finding the right one?
We do have an app here in Utah called KSL, which does allow a lot of breeders to advertise themselves online. It is also in Colorado, I believe, and maybe one or two other states, but it is mainly a Utah thing. And breeders, and you can sell anything on this app, but breeders are able to post specifically under dogs, pets, dogs, then the breed, and they're able to put in very specific information about themselves. And I just started this KSL hunt journey while working from home. I was able to be online a lot and be able to just look daily because there's always new listings, new posts, and I did want someone I could trust, but also someone that was close. I didn't want to have to travel too far. I know people travel, across the country practically to go get their dog, which is great. Knowing Dobby now, I totally would have done that. In the position before knowing him, I was not in the position to drive too far to go find him or to go get him. And I did come across his breeder, and we texted for a couple days before I did decide that I'd go with them. She knew so much, and she had obviously the two Vizslas of her own, and they have done 2 litters before Dobby, and they were planning on doing more after Dobby with the same 2 Vizslas. And so we decided it wasn't necessarily super close. It was probably a 45-minute drive, which again is not far compared to what other people do to go buy their dog. But we did go out to a city called Tooele, Utah, and we went and met them and was able to be there for a while, which was really nice to be able to talk to them and meet the mom and the dad. We played fetch with the dad for probably 30 minutes, and he is so ball obsessed that his paws started bleeding while we were playing fetch because he was just running so hard. So we knew we'd have this high energy dog just like we knew we were getting into, and it was nice to be able to meet the parents first and know their temperament and where he was coming from, the kind of environment he was coming from. And we just fell in love with him. And what's funny is everyone's always asking me, how did you pick which puppy? I feel like that's probably the hardest part. But by the time I got there, Dobby was actually the only one left. So it was not a hard decision. I got the last dog, and I'm so glad I did. He's so perfect. It's actually funny too, is there was 2 left when I was originally texting the breeder, and she had someone put a deposit down, and the person that put the deposit down specifically asked, which one has the most energy out of the two puppies. And it was the dog she chose. She wanted the one with the most crazy energy and the craziest personality. So she chose the one over Dobby, which is perfect because it's funny. Dobby's nickname from the breeder was Iceman. Just they said he was chill, which obviously Dobby is not chill, but I guess compared to the other puppies, he was. But yeah, we were like, we are not naming him Iceman. We will think of a different name. But yes, it was a great experience meeting them. We did actually meet the other crazy puppy too, because the people who put the deposit down hadn't picked up their dog yet. And it was biting my toes and kind of driving me crazy. So I was so glad we went with Dobby. And I mean, again, he was the only option, but I'm glad we got the one we did.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I feel like, when you go to pick out a dog like that, it's very difficult. My second dog, we picked out from an accidental litter and, on a farm in Texas, and there was like 8 puppies. And, I had picked a different one, and my ex-husband had specifically picked Izzy because she was the quiet one, and she ended up being the demon. So, you don't know. People say, the way they are as a puppy defines how they are as an older dog. And I honestly don't agree with that, because I feel like you can have a puppy that's completely chill and seems like it's just a total goofball, because that's what Fitz was. Fitz couldn't jump. He hopped down the stairs like a little kangaroo, and he was totally mellow all the time. He just slept. And now I have like this wild child. So I think that, to judge a dog that's, brand new in this world, its whole life based on what you see at the breeder is probably not exactly what you should expect for the dog's entire life. But that being said, I love, love, love that you got to meet the parents. I love that you got to play fetch with the dad. I love that you got to have so much interaction with the breeders, and that it was such a positive experience, because, we've talked on other episodes about, what to look for in situations that are not safe, breeder situations, backyard breeders, and, the like. And it really sounds like the people that you got him from really cared about the litter. I mean, to go as far as potty training, that says a lot about them. So good job for doing the research and putting in the work and making sure that you were purchasing from somebody who actually ethically was breeding dogs. So you said that you kind of like to do lots of stuff with Dobby. You like to take him and do adult things with him. So I'm putting that in air quotes, adult things. What kind of adult things do you do with Dobby?
He is my best little running buddy. I recently got into running longer distances, I guess, than I have been previously. I've always been able to do a mile here and there, but nothing long, nothing fast, nothing crazy. And just this last year, 2023, at the beginning of the year, my work actually just put on a little 5K that we could sign up for. And I was like, let's do it. And I started training for it just so that, because the winners actually got like $100 Amazon gift card. And I was like, this would be awesome. $100 Amazon gift card would be great. But the more I started training for this, the more I just fell in love with it. And Dobby is just the best little running buddy. It did take about 2 weeks to train him not to pee on every single tree that we passed while we were running, but he picked it up real quick. He is so fast. He's pulling me along, honestly, which is great to have as a running buddy because he really keeps me going. And he recently, it was actually just last Labor Day weekend, we ran a first half marathon together, and I got my husband involved, and I have one of those handless leashes that I use as we go running. So tied Dobby around my waist, and we took off running and ran a half marathon together. And it was great because obviously Dobby had done all the training with me, but Vizslas can go forever. He totally could have done a round 2, a round 3, probably round 4, just never stops. I was dying. And the funny thing too is we ran on a trail right by my house. It's called the Jordan River Trail, and it goes tons of miles. It's forever. It goes through multiple cities. but it goes along a river, which means there are a lot of ducks, a lot of quails. So Dobby would start running faster than we were already running. So we killed our time, honestly, on this race. I think way faster than I could have done it by myself. But definitely running is my number one favorite thing to do with Dobby. We also love hikes. There are so many hikes here in Utah. We're known for our mountains. So it is occasionally hard to find dog-friendly hikes because a lot of canyons are watershed canyons, so you cannot take dogs up there. But there are a couple that you can, and so we always drive a little bit further to go on those hikes that are dog-friendly that I can take Dobby on. And we've stayed overnight in a tent with him, and he actually did great. He killed it his first time. I was a little worried about it, but he did awesome. He jumped in the lake multiple times while we were there and just had a blast. And he loves camping, honestly, loves hiking. And those are definitely our top two favorite things to do with him. We love to be outdoors and enjoying mountains and getting some exercise in.
I'm going to give you credit here again for doing the research and picking a dog that fits your lifestyle, because it does sound like you guys are very outdoorsy, very busy people. And accommodating your lifestyle to your dog is really important, and you really picked a dog that fits in well to your lifestyle. So bravo on that. And that is a lesson for all the listeners, because you really should, have an idea of what you're getting into before you commit to a breed, because they really can cause you to have some lifestyle changes, especially when you have a dog that's super high energy. Let's talk a little bit about the high energy and the management, because obviously you run. How many miles a day do you run, do you think?
I'd say on average, anywhere between 5 and 6. If it's just an average, sometimes it's a 5K around 3, but sometimes I go up to 9 or 10. So average about 5 or 6.
And he still has a lot of energy even after this 5 or 6 mile run a day.
Oh, yes. I think it actually gives him the zoomies, so it almost makes him have more energy after we get back. I am pooped once I walk in that door. I lay down and just take a breather, and he immediately grabs a stuffed animal and just wants to play. I'm like, bro, we just ran, and it was not easy, and he's just ready to keep going even harder and just is nonstop, honestly.
So what other kinds of things do you do to manage that high energy level? Because I have a high energy level dog, and I know that takes a lot of rounds of fetch and some walks and, some enrichment activities. So what kind of things do you do for Dobby to supplement that high energy level? Get his ear flop.
I love lick mats. I love slow feeders. They are a lifesaver, honestly, to keep him distracted for longer periods of time. And he's currently playing with me with a sock right now. He lives up to his name. He loves socks. They are his favorite thing in the world, and he just goes crazy for them. It's funny, the second, we're going to bed and I take my socks off, he's just there pointing. And just the second, I don't even think they hit the ground, or obviously I'm admitting I don't put them immediately in the laundry basket, but he just snatches them so fast and is just obsessed. And he doesn't chew them or anything. He just loves having them in his mouth. It's actually quite comical. But yes, besides on top of fetch, even walks during the day. I know that that's obviously common, but walks during a lunch break is so nice to split up the day a little bit so that it's not all in your evening, taking up your evening time when you're about to eat dinner or anything like that. And then obviously our runs are first thing in the morning. So we're up at the latest 6 a.m. to start our running. And in the cold, that has been a challenge. So it is harder to obviously exercise your dog when there's snow outside or rain outside. So we definitely go for those slow feeders, which we call his vending machine. It's this little toy that we got that he has to hit, and it topples out food. And it's perfect because it takes him at least 30 to 40 minutes to eat a meal, which everyone knows usually it takes less than 30 seconds for a dog to eat their meal. So it is so perfect. So we fill that up and let him topple the food, and it brings out like 3 little pebbles here or there. And it's so nice to have something like that to keep him entertained.
That's a really fun idea. That's really cute, actually. Well, while we're on the topic of feeding your dog, you guys had something really exciting happen recently. Would you share that with the listeners?
Yes, of course. So the owner of Elevate Pet reached out a couple months ago and asked if we would be interested in pretty much partnering and just advertising this brand. And it has been so fun. I have honestly been looking for a good quality food at where you're not paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And even though any dog is worth it, they're your baby, you want to feed them the best, but you also need to maintain, yourself and your household. So it has been so fun to work with this brand, and they have amazing dog food. It's all natural, organic. It's air dried beef and grass fed beef, actually. And they add just a couple of vegetables in there, like carrots and spinach. And what I love is you just look at the ingredient list and you don't have to be a nutritionist or, super knowledgeable about the stuff to actually decipher the ingredients. It's all human grade food. I even talked to the owner and he was like, yeah, you could just eat it yourself. Because I told him it actually looked kind of good. And he said, yeah, honestly, I've tried it and it's just like ground beef jerky. Like that's all it is. It's human grade food that you could just eat. And it doesn't taste bad. I have not personally tried it yet, but that's just what he told me. And Dobby is just obsessed with it. And I love just knowing that I am giving him a good diet and that he is getting, the nutrients and protein and vegetables and servings he needs.
Another note too is that Vizslas tend to have like some pretty avid skin and allergy issues, and having them on the right diet is really important for their dander level, their shedding level, which usually, like you said, is pretty minimal. But again, having them on the right diet really helps with that. Do you feel like that food helps with that as well?
Yes, exactly. Vizslas are known to have allergy issues, and I feel like we talked about in our pre-interview, putting them on a good diet to begin with helps prevent those in the future. And I am in multiple Vizsla Facebook pages where they do talk about just their dog having these allergic reactions or rashes or hives and just so many things that I think are preventable in the future. Sorry.
It's okay. So obviously you really stand behind this brand because you let them put your dog's face on the bag, which is really incredible because I think that's kind of like the top tier goal of everyone in the dog community, because I know that I would love to have Fitz's face on a bag of dog food. Not joking. When I saw your post announcing, that he was this new representative for them and that his face was on the bag of food, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I think that you're the first person out of all of our guests that has their dog's face on a bag of food, which is really, really, really cool. And it really is amazing that you found a brand of food that is supportive of Dobby's needs. And we will make sure that we provide your link so that people can check it out. Do they have subscriptions? Do they have auto ship? Do they have the different kind of options that people would be interested in?
Yes, all of the above. You can purchase a one-time, purchase just a one-time bag, or you can set up a subscription and you choose the length, just like you're shopping on Amazon. If you want every 2 weeks, every week, every month, whatever you want to do, they have those options. And yes, you can use code Dobby50 and it gets 50% off anyone's first order. And it just ships straight to your house, which I love. I told you that I will find any excuse not to leave the house when it comes to shopping. Obviously, Amazon is a go-to. Walmart drop-off, pickup is a go-to. Just anything I can do to stay home and be here instead of going out and having to do grocery shopping or go to the pet store and having to buy food or just running those monotonous errands is great. So I love that it shows up right on my front porch and that Dobby loves it. A lot of Vizslas too are picky, which is a huge thing. And Dobby's just obsessed with it. Dobby is actually very picky. He doesn't like a single fruit. Can you believe that? No fruit at all. He'll sit and beg for it though. And then you give him, a piece of banana and he just spits it out like it's the most disgusting thing he's ever had in his life. But he loves this food, which I'm grateful for because the worst thing in the world is buying a food that your dog that he doesn't end up liking, that you spent that money, opened it, and even though if it is returnable, you feel bad. You just opened this bag of food and it's probably going to go to waste. So it is so important to find a diet that your dog likes, but that is also giving them what they need.
I've told this story before on the podcast, but when I first got my first dog, Oliver, I went to Petco, PetSmart, any place I could go, like multiple times a week, and got bags of treats because I wanted to find out what treats he liked. And he would have one, never touch them again. And it took me like a year of doing this. And then it was freaking baby carrots is what he ended up loving. And they're 99 cents a bag.
Hundreds of dollars sitting on my fireplace mantle, like all these bags of all these treats. Yep. It's so funny. You said he doesn't like fruit. Fitz is also a picky eater. The fruit that Fitz won't eat is apples. I think it's a texture thing for him because he goes to bite into it and he looks at me like, why? Why did you just give me that? I don't like it. And then he just left right on the floor and he walks away from it. So I think that's funny that Dobby doesn't like bananas or any fruit. But yeah, I can definitely see him just spitting out that banana. So now we're to the point where you've got a very busy lifestyle. You're very involved. You keep him by your side and he gets to do lots of things with you. You also live in Utah. So there's tons of range. Like you said, into the mountains, but there's also like a desert area. There's lots of climbing. There's all kinds of things to do in Utah. Are there a lot of dog-friendly areas, or is there a way to find out like what's going on for people in the dog community that's relevant to people in Utah?
Yes, I love following SLC Dog Friendly. It stands for Salt Lake City Dog Friendly, and she's amazing. She has the cutest golden retriever, and she posts a calendar and keeps us all up to date on dog events in the future, dog restaurants, dog-friendly restaurants, dog-friendly hikes, dog-friendly lakes, anything you need, you can find it on her page if it's in Utah. And luckily, a lot of cities here will allow dogs in their pools at the end of the year. I told you how right after Labor Day weekend, there are multiple rec centers that open up the pools just to dogs, and it is Dobby's favorite thing. And I just love seeing him swim. He just loves it. He'll jump in the water as if he's dock diving and just is obsessed with swimming in the water. And so those are my favorite summer days with him, is when I can take him swimming, because it's also just such good exercise and just a great way to wear him out. And it's not a lot of work on my end. I don't have to be swimming in order to wear him out too. Whereas, on our runs, I'm worn out as well as he's worn out. So it's just great for everyone. And he is just in love with it. And summers are definitely the best. There are tons of hikes, like I mentioned. And again, we always try to find one with a lake so that he can go swimming. And she also posts different events that other cities do with holidays. They have a meet and greet with Santa. They have one with the Easter Bunny. They have a whole Easter egg hunt where they can go find Easter eggs in a field. And even on the Santa one, you can make cookies, and they're dog cookies that you end up giving to your dog. And it's just so cute. You can get your picture taken with Santa, and then Santa gives you a toy and a bandana. And it's just so fun to find those events. And I'm so glad she posts those and takes the time to do all that research to allow people to find places that they can take their dog with them.
Yeah, that's really cool. Make sure you share that link with me too, so that we can put that in the episode notes too, because I feel like we do have some listeners out in Utah, and if they don't already know about it, now they do. And that's just another resource that we can provide for people who live there, but also people who are going to travel there and potentially bring their dogs. Then they know, like, oh, we can do this with it. Because Josh, you guys take Artie when you guys travel. I mean,
yeah,
to Utah.
There's a website we use, or an app actually on our phone that we use, called Bring Fido, that we started using a few years ago, and love it. Like, it'll actually go down to like telling you if there's a dog friendly menu, which we run into restaurants that have a full dog menu.
We have another one coming on the show that's called Spot Dog Here, and they do the same thing. So that'll be really cool. I think incorporating these neat little apps and websites, searches and stuff for people to find out, hey, this is what we could do with our dogs and this is where we can go. I think that's really useful information, especially, like here in Cedar Rapids, we don't really have a ton of places that are dog friendly. We have some patios that are dog friendly, but not really.
I think the laws are much different here than they are in other places.
That's fair. We don't have as many wide open areas in the city. I do know that we're opening a new dog park. Somebody posted that on Facebook the other day over in the Nubo area, which I think where the old skate park used to be. So that's pretty cool, but not like the outdoorsy kind of stuff that they have in Utah, which is, really, really neat.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the name of the place that we went to in the Twin Cities. That was amazing. Stanley's Northeast Bar. I'm just going to give a quick shout out. They have an outdoor patio that they actually have like the heaters and everything. So they're open unless it's below freezing. But they worked with a local brewery to even brew a dog beer, I put in quotes, but it's like mostly beef raw and just brewed with a bunch of different stuff. But it actually had a dog brunch menu. So Artemis was sitting next to us having a beer, and what did we end up ordering her? Like, they keep all the like lamb bones and things and strip out the marrow and things like that for them, and like it's on their menu. It was so cool. So like those kind of things, if you're going to go to brunch, you get to take your dog to brunch.
That is really cool. Do you think Dobby would be well mannered at a brunch?
No.
Yeah,
it's not the people person.
Yeah, I'm fortunate in that Artie is just very, very chill.
She is very chill. I could see though. I mean, if it's a dog friendly thing and Dobby wants to go say hi to people, I think that's okay. If people are expecting that kind of thing. I know that there are, breweries. I've been to a brewery in Austin that, like is the same thing when dogs just kind of wander and people are drinking. Now, could that situation be dangerous? Yes, it potentially could be dangerous. Please be aware when you take your dog to situations like that, there could be somebody that's not paying attention. That is like a dog park with beer. So let's maybe think about our choices in some of these situations. But dog friendly, again, owner responsibility. And obviously we know Kenzi here is a very responsible owner. And it's been really fun chatting with you tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to add in about Dobby before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it.
If you had to convince someone to get a Vizsla, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that you are about to meet your new best friend, because just like I never want to do anything without Dobby, Dobby never wants to do anything without me. And it is just so fun having him constantly by my side. Obviously, that is not for everyone, but they are called Velcro Vizslas, or just Velcro dogs in general. And because they are like Velcro, they will be stuck to you constantly, which I love. I love a snuggly, cuddly dog that is big enough to still do fun things with, but not too big where they're, toppling you over all the time, or just, they have rarely any aggression in them whatsoever, which is so perfect. And anyways, yeah, built-in best friend for sure.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I love that, you went from not being a dog person to being obsessed and calling your dog your best friend. And I just really think that it's an amazing story. So thank you again for being here tonight, Kenzi.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, you heard all about Vizslas tonight, and go check out Dobby's page. Thank you for listening to tonight's episode, and we'll see you next week on Straight Up Dog Talk.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.